Welcome on in, everybody, to another edition of the Porpoise Pod. Tobin here with you alongside my co-host Alejandro Solana. Same story, different week, Solana. 3 straight losses for the Dolphins, and they all feel very eerily similar. I don't know where you want to start. Another game where you don't end with the same quarterback that starts the game. Another quarterback gets hurt with injury. Key turnovers late, crushing touchdown after said turnover to really put the nail in the coffin. And now you sit 3-3, watching the Jets go past you in the standing. It's a depressing Sunday, my friend.
It is. The Jets pick up a big win on the road, Lambeau Field, and you're the Dolphins. You have a chance late in that game. And when you look at all the stats, Tobin, when you look at the numbers, you struggle to realize why the Dolphins got beat the way that they did, right? And then, when you watch the game or you listen to the game, you realize, well, they don't end the game with the quarterback they prepared with all week. And the injury bug strikes again. It comes in bunches, impacting the same positions on both sides of the football. And you're sitting in a very deep hole now, Tobin, at 3-3. Still a soft part of the schedule coming up, but it's been ugly. It has been.
Yeah, it's ugly and it's been painful because on the one hand, there's been some great resilience we've seen in all of these games to be in games when you feel like, Tua gets stretched off a field. You don't really feel like you're going to have a chance to win that game, and you did, but you had a key interception late, and then the Bengals ended it. When, you lose Teddy Bridgewater and you see the way Skylar Thompson's playing in the early goings in the Meadowlands, and the way the defense was, you didn't really think like you'd have a chance in the fourth quarter, but you did. And then the same way today, you're like, once again, you don't feel like a high-powered offense like the Vikings. You don't think you're going to be really in it, but you really are all this game. And just to see all of these games really have their opportunities get crushed in such epic fashion is what I think hurts the most about it. It's like, I almost feel like I could deal with it better if I knew the Dolphins were, were shorthanded and they felt like they were in over their head. But I feel like with this team that they have had chances to be in these games and win these games. Maybe not the Jets game, that's probably wishful thinking. They were in that game, but fourth quarter really fell away. But the Bengals game and this one certainly were right there for them. And to have them both go the other direction is pretty bitter.
Yeah. And especially when you consider the fact that you start off that game and really for the entirety of the game, the defense, at least, the big guys up front, like they handled their business, right?
Yeah.
Like you can point to specific parts of this team and say, okay, they played well. The wide receivers with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, like you expect those guys to be playmakers. You expect them to have big performances, and they do, but you don't expect one of them, in this case, Jalen Waddle, being the guy who kind of costs you the game in the end. And I'm not, blaming Jalen Waddle, because there were other parts of the game where, the Dolphins kind of shot themselves in the foot. But at the end of the day, you have a chance there. You're driving down the field, you're down 6, and it is Waddle for the second time that costs you the football and coughs it up. So,
well, I am blaming Jalen Waddle. Like, I don't understand why there's this propensity for fans not to blame something that's quite obvious. Like, Jalen Waddle blew that game, and that's just flat out. I love Jalen Waddle. Don't get me wrong. Like, we're all sitting here penguin dancing, and he gets all his flowers, and this dude for 95% of the time gets his ass kissed by a Dolphins fan. Deserved. He's awesome, but he blew that game, and that's a back-breaking fumble. And if you're going to be one of the best receivers in this league, which we all think, you can't blow games like that. And especially when you are in a situation where we're on the backup quarterback for the third time in 3 weeks, you need your best players to come through for you with big time plays. And, we saw that in certain situations where guys were coming through. Tyreek Hill comes through in a big way. Like, no, those are inexcusable from Jalen Waddle. Fans got to realize, like, there's a difference between being a hater on a guy and just calling it like it is. Like, if you're in a situation, and you're right, if I look at the numbers of this game, Yeah, there's imperfections everywhere. Run game again didn't go going. Offensive line looked like crap. Took a while for Teddy Bridgewater to find his rhythm. Fine, but you were on a game winning, a potential game leading drive, and one of your go to guys gets a first down and then just coughs up the football like that. If that's not blowing the game, I mean, I don't know what your standard is then for blowing the game.
No, I mean he clearly blew the game in that specific instance in the fact that the Dolphins were driving down the field and had the chance at that point to take the lead. But man, like how many instances can I show you where other players cost this team points as well? First of all, Jason Sanders. I mean, you know,
I'm so done,
bum,
dude.
bum,
I'm done with him. I am so done with Jason. This guy is washed. It
bum
co-
right now,
it
and
comes and goes for kickers, dude. You just know it's over for this guy.
yeah, he's done so. And but what about let's go to the one of the first drives of the game for the Dolphins on offense before Teddy Bridgewater's in there. Skylar Thompson kind of feels, he's getting in a rhythm. He's looking better than Teddy Bridgewater has looked the entirety of his time as a backup here in Miami. And you go 30-yard pass to Waddle completion, then Mostert on the very next play 16-yard run, and then Tyreek Hill. These were all in consecutive order. Tyreek Hill, 9-yard pass.
Yep.
And then following that up on the next 7 plays, it's 5 penalties. I believe 4 of those plays put you down in the red zone. On one instance, River Craycraft caught a pass after Skylar Thompson evaded pressure, hit him down the middle of the field, and he gets to the 1-yard line. Any of those, instances, you could argue the Dolphins, at the very least, have a chance to put 3 on the board, if not get a touchdown, and instead they have to punt the ball. And then the next time you get it, another punt. Skylar goes to the locker room. Like you could, in my opinion, point to so many instances where the Dolphins on 3rd and short don't convert. They go for it on 4th down, and we like the wheelbarrow plays from McDaniel because he does it later on in the game, right before the fumble, and it paid off. But kind of the same old we've seen from former Dolphins teams, where inability to convert on 3rd and short, inability to convert on 3rd down, period, inability to move the ball throughout stretches of the game. That's why I'm saying I'm not just placing the entire loss on Jalen Waddle, even though, yes, he blew the game at the end. I'm not going to argue with that.
No, look, the offensive line was piss poor today. It sounded like afterwards, Mike McDaniel made it sound like Austin Jackson, Teron Armstead will be ready for next week,
Yeah.
along with Tua. So that's great. I mean, it does sound like some reinforcements are coming. But I think the way I look at it from this standpoint is I already know that they're in an adverse situation. If you've gone now 3 straight games where you have to play basically your backup quarterback to close out your game, you can't have your best players have to rise to a level even higher, because I can't expect Greg Little to not be Greg Little. I can't expect the backup lineman to be not the backup lineman. They are what they are. Jalen Waddle, we all think, is going to probably be a top 10 receiver in this league. And you could just see how crushed he was by that because of just the dejected look on him. So if it would be Tyreek Hill would be getting crushed today because he's the highest paid player of the team. If it was, Mike Gesicki, I feel like he's more polarizing. I think that, Waddle is just so popular. His Dolphins, Q rating has to be through the roof. Everybody loves Jalen Waddle. Who doesn't love Jalen Waddle? So it sucks when that happens. But, I'm with you. He's not the sole reason that they lost. But when they had that game in hand,
Yeah.
It killed him. But the thing that's been killer about this has now happened 3 straight weeks where there's been a turnover and it's resulted directly to a touchdown for the other team, and it's killed you. It's put you completely out of the game. It happened against the Bengals, it happened against the Jets, and it happened this week. And certainly with what you're dealing with from the injury standpoint, when you're dealing with not having Tua, not having Teddy, now not having Skylar, all the guys that you prepped for that game week all leave, you then can't also have backbreaking turnovers that lead to scores for the other team. It not, first of all, put your defense in a terrible spot. And second of all, like you're giving up points directly for yourself because, at least on 2 of those drives, the Skylar one was way back in your own territory, but with Teddy and with this one, you were driving.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, it was backbreaking. and you are in that situation where you're preparing, like you said, with a specific player. First Tua in Cincinnati, then Teddy, and then Skyler. And yeah,
It's
I mean,
crazy. Like, I can't believe this happened 3 straight weeks.
it's
That's
stupid.
like, it's
It's
so
stupid.
dumb. Yeah,
It's stupid.
like, and like, what are these injuries that have happened? Like, Tua's probably was the most preventable, I guess we could say, because obviously everybody knew he was not 100% going into that game. But the Teddy Bridgewater thing, fake concussion, which then allowed him not to practice all week. And then the Skylar Thompson. Oh, yeah, you're right. I love the fact with Skylar. I love the fact that they let him out there. They let him cut it loose a little bit. Like,
Just
I just
go.
thought, just do your thing. Yeah, you be you. And I thought that was a beautiful thing with him. But the penalties were hard to overcome for him. And then, the line was getting their ass kicked today. And so not a surprise that he ends up getting, his finger crushed on one of these.
Yeah, it was bad with the offensive line. There's also, something to be said about the Dolphins secondary. We're going now 3 straight games where the Dolphins don't have a takeaway. This defense, if
Yep.
they're not taking the ball away from the other team, forcing turnovers, I mean, we're a little spoiled from the second half of last season, Tobin. There's no doubt about it. But we're not asking for 3 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles in a game. We're asking for the defense to come up and make a big play.
Right.
And for the most part, I think there was at one point 5 consecutive punts by Minnesota. Like, the big guys up front, they did their job, and the defense for a large portion of that game did their job as well. But when you put it into context, I mean, Miami had almost double the amount of possession time as Minnesota. So the defense wasn't out there throughout, long stretches the way we saw against Buffalo. Like,
True.
what was asked of them was less than other instances where they came out on top and they showed that they were elite. And I mean, you can't force a takeaway from Kirk Cousins and Minnesota. And I know now Nick Needham, he has a torn Achilles. It's being reported. So
Yes.
he's obviously done for the year, if that's true. And you got a couple decent plays from Noah Igbenogany, but that's
I know. Look at that.
That's not something that
because his first play we all saw, it was pass interference. Like, oh no,
I know.
it was like, here we go. But he had a couple nice breakups. So I'll tell you who was
did.
getting his ass kicked by this. You didn't hear this on the broadcast, but man, Jonathan Vilma had no shot on his name. I mean, he said it like 4 different ways.
On who? On Iggy?
Oh, on Iggy. Yeah, he was like,
Igbanani.
Like, I'm like, nope, not even close, Vilma.
To be fair, well, Jonathan Vilma probably should know all the Dolphins players' names, but to be fair, Iggy hasn't played too much this year.
That's fine.
To be fair,
I just wish somebody would have gotten his ear. Like, all right, it's Igbenogany,
or
go
Iggy.
Just go
Noah.
Yeah, he was getting his ass kicked by that name. But no, look, the defense, I mean, 11 3 and outs, that's a pretty good performance. But as you said, like, Xavier Howard, it's Justin Jefferson, so it's a tough ask. But he got, he blew past him. That's what you ask for your elite cornerback. And then, Thielen got him on that touchdown. So there's a couple more possessions there where you're looking for your best guys. But, all in all, like, another tough deal with you. It's a good team you're taking on, and to be in that position, I mean, geez, Tyreek Hill just keeps putting up numbers. It's crazy.
Crazy.
What do we make? Let me ask you something. What do we make of these mid-game breaks that he has to go rehydrate? I'm not saying anything because he's a Dolphin, and I don't want to feel like there's anything suspicious going on here, but it's very noticeable that after these rehydrations, he seems to be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's plays where he's catching the ball and any other receiver in the NFL is getting tackled, right? Like, they're just going down, catching the ball, and there's nothing else to be. He makes one step one way, the way he's able to accelerate. We've all seen the highlights, but watching it live or watching it every week, it's effing crazy what he's doing. Really, like, it's insane what he's able to do, the way he's able to get from like one gear and hit that next one. He's flying by people. It's crazy, man. Like, he's fun. He is fun to watch. But I'm not shying away from what you're saying. It's an interesting situation where he runs into the locker room and you're like, oh, you get the report from the Dolphins. that he's questionable to return. But then 17 seconds after that's sent out by the Dolphins, he's coming right back on the sideline. Like he's running fast out of the locker room and he's putting his helmet back on.
It's like Popeye and his spinach, dude. I'm just saying, like, I know that he plays like at this crazy blazing pace, and now he has to play in humidity too on top of that. But it's very interesting how he seems to come back there, and it feels like he gets an extra hundy every time that he's back from the locker room. He finished with 177 yards today. He is been as advertised. He's really good, and you really can't wait to see him back out there with his starting quarterback and to see what actual damage he could do for points. We'll take a quick break here on the Porpoise Pod. We'll look a little ahead. Where can things get right? Mike McDaniel. What are things that the coach can look to here as the Dolphins go, as many people think, into the soft part of their schedule. Plus, Mike Gesicki did the thing again, and he's getting killed for it. More Porpoise Pod swimming on after this. Porpoise Pod swimming on here. Dolphins, they fall to the Minnesota Vikings 24-16, week 6. They now turn their attention to Sunday Night Football. Solana, we get the excellent news over the weekend that Tua Tagovailoa is out of concussion protocol. He fully practiced on Friday, and it appears that the Dolphins quarterback, nothing confirmed yet, but it would appear he is very much on track to play Sunday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Flores revenge game. Thank God.
Thank goodness, man. He was on the sideline. He was active. I kept looking up the broadcast. Like he's making his appearance felt on the sideline. He's dying to get back out there.
Oh yeah, he's got to be jonesing for it for sure. And I think the receivers got to be feeling that too, because Waddle and Hill have had to do a lot of work to buoy up Teddy Bridgewater and Skylar Thompson. I thought Teddy was okay today. Definitely took a drubbing, but like it took him a while to get going, I felt like, which I guess is understandable. He didn't practice all week.
He didn't practice, and it's the same thing, right? Like they go in with a game plan with Skylar, and here you are in the first half, and Teddy Bridgewater. Like it was almost a joke. The beat writers, when they were all tweeting out, like, you guys aren't going to believe this, but Skylar Thompson's heading to the locker room, because it's like a sick joke at this point.
It's crazy.
Every week, the Dolphins, it's a revolving door of quarterbacks. Like they should appeal to the league to just let them have 5 quarterbacks on the roster. Like give us 57 roster spots so we can add a couple quarterbacks, because you never know at this point what the deal is.
I don't know. Like, there's no way this has happened based on injury, right? Like that a quarterback has not started or has not ended a game that he has started 3 straight weeks. I feel like that's maybe a performance-based thing. I could see that happening, but like, man, it's pretty bananas from that standpoint. One positive though, before we get back into Tua, what do you think, Mike Gesicki? Definitely best game of the season, couple TDs. Had at one point, like after his first touchdown, went over and went to Mike McDaniel. They had some kind of exchange they showed on the broadcast where like Mike Gesicki seemed like he was kind of like positively yelling at him, and like Mike McDaniel's tapping him on the head. And I don't know if it was along the lines of keep feeding me the effing ball for once. I don't know what the conversation was, but Gesicki balled out today.
Yeah. Well, that's the Mike Gesicki that we're all expecting. That's the Mike Gesicki that we know is capable of putting up those performances. I wish you'd, find a new touchdown celebration, because it's kind of getting a little cringe at this point. But no, before we even get into that, bro, he's a weapon. Yeah. Use him. I'm not angry at Mike Gesicki for having a big game or a big play and going over to the head coach who calls the plays and being like, bro, look at what I'm capable of doing. Look at what we're missing right now, and you should be taking full advantage. And by the way, it doesn't surprise me when a backup quarterback is in to use the tight end like that, especially when you have 2 electrifying guys on each side, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, who cause so much attention from the defense. Like, you should be using the tight end who can also make plays. Like that seems obvious, doesn't it?
Yeah, especially in the red zone. I mean, like
right.
The one thing with having those 2 burners is that they're great in space, but when the field does get narrowed down a little bit, Waddle and Tyreek Hill, like, yeah, you need guys with a little bit of size. And so when your best 2 receivers look like that, you need somebody else who could take advantage. And it'd be nice if you had him in a game where you were kind of feeding his confidence a little bit. So I really love seeing that. I don't know what's to do with. Listen, I'm nobody to get on anybody's dancing. This gritty thing has to die a slow death. Even Jamar Chase today who is I guess the gritty OG in the NFL. He's saying this ain't it. But the one thing is he doesn't look like he cares, because that was the longest. It was not only like the worst gritty I've ever seen, it was the longest. Like he was soaking that in. Like he just wanted to cringe everybody to death.
I did see RG3, because I think that's what Jamar Chase quote tweeted. RG3 called it the unseasoned gritty, which is really funny. Really funny.
The white guys have really like killed this thing. I got to be honest with you. Like every single week. Now Mike is the worst. Agreed. But like between Mac Jones and Zach Wilson, even Thielen threw it out. Now I don't know if Thielen has the pass because of Justin Jefferson, giving him the blessing. But like, boy, the white guys have killed this thing. I mean, it really like it's everybody else has to be looking at this just like, come on, bro. What are we doing out here? You know?
But that's what he's doing, right? That's what he's doing, where he knows it's bad at this point. He knows he's getting clowned for it, but he's like, I'm going to do it anyways.
Just soak it in.
Yeah.
My favorite was when Trill Williams said that guy's skiing. Because that's what I thought it looked like. I was like, he's spot on with that. It looks like he's about to go downhill. It's crazy.
He's hitting the slopes. He's
hitting the slopes. Little bunny slope from Mike Gesicki. What do you think for Mike McDaniel? It's been a pretty charmed beginning of his career, and now he's had to deal with adversity these last 3 weeks. Had to have been stressful to deal with all this protocol stuff. He even started his Friday press conference where he's like asking the reporters, like, hey, here's a thought. Why don't we ask, me about the Vikings, which was funny. But I think also comes from a place of truth is he's really tired about talking about concussions. Do you feel like, is the honeymoon stage over for Mike McDaniel at this point? I know a lot of this stuff has been out of his control, but you're in the midst of losing 3 in a row here. And, people can say like, your team being undisciplined or these mistakes and all the penalties, they will point to coaching and say, hey, something has to get better here. Even though who the hell could deal with this kind of adversity?
So, I was thinking about this on the way home, where the Dolphins offense looked unbelievable really in one quarter. If we're, I'm not hating on Mike McDaniel, but if we're being 100% honest, the Dolphins offense looked like they took another step in one quarter of football this year. And they've scored 42 against the Ravens, but other than that, it was 20 at home against New England. Well, it's week 1, right? That's what we all said. Yep. It's week 1. It'll take some time. 21 against the Bills. Okay, but the Bills are a really good team, and your defense was out there quadruple the amount of time.
I would say time of possession would be my
fine.
big thing there. But I hear you.
But then, you scored 15 against the Bengals, and then you say, well, Tua was out and everybody was concerned about the ugly injury. Okay, Thursday Night Football, you're banged up. But then 17 against the Jets, and then, okay, fine, we did the thing with Teddy Bridgewater, and then it was Skylar Thompson. But at some point, Tobin, like we can keep doing the excuse machine, and we can keep adding context, which, by the way, I'm not saying is unfair. Like, context matters when you're talking about these games, because the reality is you're preparing with one guy and he doesn't get to finish, and now all of a sudden somebody else has to come in who hasn't prepared to be in that position, especially this week with Teddy Bridgewater not even practicing. So I'm not trying to push it aside, but I am saying at some point you have to stop with the excuses. He was brought in to take this offense to another level. And as much as not having your quarterback matters, I mean, they're not moving the ball well, running the ball. I know Mostert had a good game last week, but it really didn't matter because he got blown out anyways. It stunk. And then as much as today you have, your 2 guys go off, you have 19 minutes of possession, 184 yards in the first half, and all you got was 3 points out of it. So at some point, I'm not out on McDaniel. I'm not saying he's not the man for the job. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. But yes, at some point, it falls on the guy who was brought in to get your offense to a level that it needs to be to win games, especially if this defense is not the same defense as it was the last 9 games of the season last year. And that just hasn't been the case. And again, I'm not pushing aside the quarterbacks. I'm not pushing aside all the injuries because those things matter. But at the end of the day, when we're assessing this team at the end of the season, nobody's going to care about the injury bug because it's impacting every team around the NFL. And
Definitely.
all that's going to matter is how many wins you had, how many losses you had, period. And the Dolphins, as great as though that 3-0 start was, if we're being 100% honest, one good, unbelievable quarter of football. And then the offense has just been okay and less than average the rest of the time.
I would say, like, here's my evaluation of what I haven't looked at stats. I don't know where they rank anywhere. I would just say what's very clear about this team in years past is their big playability because of their two best weapons is huge. Like, that, I think, is the fun part as a Dolphin fan. We see that they're not necessarily a team that does need 10 plays to get down the field. I think that the run game has been
today, by the way, even today, that was the case where all across the board today, you had guys making big plays. It wasn't just Tyreek. It wasn't just Waddle. Like, you had the Mostert big run. You had Tyreek earlier in the game, 30-yard reception. Waddle, 30-yard reception. Like, you were able to get the big play, which, to your point, the Dolphins haven't been able to do in forever.
No, like, that's definitely been a noticeable thing, is that they can go and they can get chunk plays. And I actually feel like, as an offense, one of the things that's been a blessing, because they seem to come out of the gates of these games very slow, is they can get back into games. So that's been a good thing. But I'm with you. They have not been this vaunted offense that has put up a ton of points. The run game has been non-existent. Even Jonathan Vilma was talking today. He's saying, like, they're a little predictable because of the personnel. Like, you could tell based on who's in what they're going to do. And I think that the Vikings probably snuffed a lot of that out, where maybe the Jets didn't have the respect of it last week because the Dolphins hadn't shown it up to that point. The Vikings were very ready for Mostert at any point he was carrying the football today. That the personnel was very predictable, Vilma was saying. So that, I think, he has to go back to the drawing board. And certainly he's been throwing curveballs 3 straight weeks. Like, that just is what it is. But they have not scored an opening drive touchdown yet this season, which inevitably seems to put you behind in every single one of these games. So they got to get out to better starts, Solana. That to me is huge. And I think that you look at these next 5 games that they got, which is, many people correctly are putting as the cream puff of your schedule. These next 5: Steelers, Lions, Bears, Browns, Texans. Not a winning record among them. They have they're all under 500. They're all, I think, was it 1, 2 win teams? Well, the Bears got 2 wins. So you got everyone is a 2-win team except for the Texans, who are a 1-win team. And I think that if we're going to see them put up points, you're getting Tua back, supposedly. This would be the time where we're going to see, okay, you're this elite offense. You got all these weapons. You've invested everything. Now it's go time. Supposedly next week, this is what we should have. We should have Tua back. Looks and sounds like we're going to get Armstead and Austin Jackson back. So that's as healthy on the offensive side of the football as you can pretty much get. The defense and the secondary doesn't feel like that's going to be maybe whole all year. It feels like Xavier's going to be playing through something, and it feels like Byron Jones, who knows, and Nick Needham's done for the year. So we might have to hold on. Cater Co, who's now dealing with an oblique. So we may have like that. That feels like it's going to deal with it. But, dude, it's the Steelers coming in here. They're not lighting the world on fire. None of these quarterbacks should burn you for anything. Yeah. So this is the time, these next 5 weeks, where, like, I know this is it's 4-1, or you're not serious about making the playoffs. Like, that's how it has to be looked at, because you blew the opportunity you had. Your opportunity was you started 3-0. Okay, I'll hear you out. You lose a game here and there. Football's going to football. But when you blow all 3 of them in the same fashion, you lost your cushion. You're looking up in the standings now. Okay, then you need to – there's no excuses. If you're better than these teams, all of these 2-win crap teams, you better go on some kind of a run here.
And something else that really bothered me, I didn't even mention it, Tobin. It's the way that some of these plays are getting called back. Look, your wide receiver is going to hold somebody. Your offensive tackle is going to hold somebody every now and then. That's going to happen. What about all these illegal procedure penalties for the Dolphins? What about guys just lining up where they're not supposed to be lining up? You have shotgun. Your fullback is 3 yards behind the quarterback, so it's an illegal formation. That happened a ton of times today. Those are the things to me where I say, well, maybe, the coach is at fault there, right? Especially the offensive-minded coach who's implemented his system. I mean, it's week 6. It's not week 1. It's not week 2. It's not week 3. It's week 6. And you have 3 procedure penalties or 2 procedure penalties called on your team. Like that's a sign of some sort of dysfunction between the offense and the guy who's creating and calling these plays.
It's funny you mentioned that too, because I was thinking that during the game. I was like, man, I feel like that happens to them a lot. Where
a ton of times
there's either a guy illegally downfield or they illegally form. I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm glad I'm not the only one who's like, because I haven't even seen a lot of that on Twitter or anything like that. But I've noticed that too. Like it feels like they get caught in some kind of place and they're just like, hey, you had a great play, but it was illegal. You can't do that. And
Tobin, when the Dolphins got into the red zone before the Mike Gesicki touchdown, if you remember, the play got called back on a play. I think Teddy ended up just throwing the ball in the dirt because of the rush, but it was illegal man downfield. And I watched the replay. Every offensive lineman is in the end zone, and it's like it's head scratching because they should know that. How do they not know that they can't be X amount of yards down the field on a passing play? And it seems like they're getting called on it every single game, whether it's Robert Hunt, whether it's, we give Robert Hunt a pass because he gave us the most electrifying play last year or whatever.
True.
But at some point, you're saying to yourself, like, hold on a second, what the hell is going on here? And if this were any other head football coach with all those penalties on that drive, 5 penalties on one drive, what's the criticism that comes there?
No, look, he bought himself
undisciplined.
No doubt. He bought himself a lot of clout, I think, with a lot of Dolphin fans. And he started off 3-0. He's the first guy to do that since Jimmy Johnson. I think he's a good football coach. I really do. Like, I don't think he's one of these fakes that's out there.
I do too, by the way. I'm just
no,
trying,
but it's a fair criticism. I think it's
trying to be fair, right? Where if we were if we weren't Dolphins fans and we're looking at it, and you're looking at the amount of penalties and the types of penalties, because again, you're Greg Little's in there and he's getting torched all game. At some point, he's going to get called for a holding because it is what it is. Like, you're not going to get too upset about that. But on one, have you ever seen that one drive where?
No, that was crazy. That was like, it was literally like 5 straight plays or 4 or 5 out of 6 plays where there was a flag. Yeah. It was very frustrating because the Dolphins kept getting electric plays and you're like, oh my God, this is like going to be huge for Skylar Thompson. And it was just frustrating because it just ended in a fart.
Something else that's stood out to me today, and it stood out to me immediately because you force the Vikings to punt in the first drive. Javon Holland muffs the punt, and Jalen Phillips ends up recovering. So it was fine. You don't even think about it again. But I was just scrolling here on Twitter. Joe Shad tweeted out, it's a little weird that through 6 games, the Dolphins only have 1 interception, which you talked about.
Yep.
14 punt return yards. And I'm thinking about it. I mean, okay, you muffed the first punt, but you have Tyreek Hill. You have Javon Holland, who we know, like we saw it last year. Not that he's Devin Hester, but he's a more than capable return man. You have Jalen Waddle. You have Raheem Mostert. Like, this should be a team that's at the very least able to break off one good return on the special teams to help your offense, put them in a better position. And we've got none of that this year. Thomas Morstead has been the only guy in the special teams that you can look at and say, he's been good. Your punter's been fine. But then he gave you the butt punt. So, he's kind of been remembered.
I don't know who that's on. I don't know who that's on. Is that on him or is that on Sherfield's big ass? I don't know.
Yeah.
Speaking of ass, Kyle Lowry is at the game today.
Was he really?
He was. He was enjoying the game today.
Wearing booty shorts?
I only saw the Hard Rock Stadium tweeted out a video of him just enjoying the game. I didn't know if they were doing like a team thing or whatnot. But he was at the game, so
he must be thrilled. No more Canadian football. He gets 4 down.
Oh yeah, real 3. Football.
Yeah,
although he did take a shot at the Panthers last year. Like, I hope Kyle Lowry takes his kids to the Panthers game because he's like, oh, we don't have hockey here. Meanwhile, the Panthers had the best record in the league, so Just saying, low dog. Get on out there, enjoy some game. I could have used him at quarterback today, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's our Porpoise Pod today, everybody. We'll be back later on in the week, getting you ready for the grand petty of them all. Tua versus Flores. Sunday Night Football. And really what is the most critical part of the Dolphins schedule is coming up here because they're getting the quarterback back and they need to rack up some wins if they're going to really, really contend this year. So hopefully that's the case, Solana.
Can't lose to Flo. Can't lose to Man Campbell, right?
Nope.
Like you can't.
I don't even know who the Bears coach is.
Oh, who cares?
Do you know his name? Dreadful. I don't know his name.
No idea.
Can't lose to that guy. Browns. Stefanski.
I mean, whatever.
What is that?
If we lose to Jacoby Brissett, I mean, just hang it up. That's it.
Just call it a season. That's our Porpoise Pod, everybody. Talk to you next time.